It's I know in the past I've received quite a few comments from our business community specifically that our impact fees were really kind of difficult to calculate and they were surprises. And I think we've moved away from that. I think we've done a way better job of being more transparent there. And I'm hoping that this will provide even more transparency as far as how it impacts the actual rate models, but also as, as far as our business community, if you want to open a business here, what to anticipate. So I think we're moving in the right direction here. This was just something that I've heard a lot of input from the community on in the past. So I just wanted to kind of bring this forward for general edification purposes. So.
Sure, and I think to address that specific concern, we use a chart of uses, like different types of uses, to calculate the impact fees based off an equivalency to a single family residence. And part of this study, this go around, we're going to look at that table and do some expansion of that table because we do have some uses that come in that are hard to fit in a particular category. So we've got it. It's more transparent, as you said.
Yeah, and I think I always get this wrong. Is that open counter? Is that open counter? Yeah. Okay, I got it right for a change. I think that's also now it includes kind of the anticipated impact fees on there as well, which I think is really very useful. And so the more we can do to expand upon that transparency, I think is just going to be better and better and better. Give us more of a business-friendly reputation rather than I think where we have been in the past. So I appreciate all the work towards this, and I think Friesen Nichols probably very well qualified for this. I just want to get a little bit of info on the process and things for future. Thank you.
Any other questions? Member Camcon?
Mr. Epperson, I don't know if this is a Mr. Upton question or an Epperson question, but what is our current rate on a water and wastewater connection in the residential space?
So with that, it's a combined total of $6,477, and that's 50%. So when we did this back in 2018, and that actual cost is a little over almost $13,000, but as Mr. Epperson stated, as per the local government code 395, is that we opt to take 50% value associated and charge that to the new growth, with the remaining balance being covered through the rates charged to existing customers.
If Mr. Hernandez wouldn't have pulled this, I would have. I just want to put out there for the record, there's a neighboring jurisdiction that used the same firm and had a very contentious discussion on impact fees. Local developers needed to get involved. The number went essentially 6 times what it was at the start of the year to where it is today. And so as we're going there's a certain amount of equitableness and fairness, and that just didn't happen, and the study didn't stand up to scrutiny. The staff never rebutted any of the items that were brought up, and it was a binder this thick. So I just want to put out there on the record what the right is today and what it is, and what is the recommendation that shows up, a year, 9 months, a year from now.
Yeah.
And if that number is the absolute maximum number, there's probably a problem. So I just want to make sure that we emphasize what are the needs and how are we funding those needs, because essentially, Mr. Coker, the impact fee is to pay for capital improvements, right? It's essentially an offset. This is not, in theory, a money-making endeavor. Okay, and so I just want to make sure that's out there, because this item dragged out for about 2 months in a very close neighboring jurisdiction. Now they're at a very different phase of development than we are. They're probably on the first third of their city. We're probably in the somewhere past 75% or 80%. So I just want to put the context out there.
Well, Councilman Camcar, we've been doing impact fees since 1996, was our first one that started. We ran multiple impact fees in conjunction. So the Shadow Creek Ranch, during their early phase of development, had an impact fee that was different than the city. And then 2 iterations ago, so about 8 years ago, they combined them back into one. So the city is under one impact fee. Those are locked in by the time of plat. That's why we have them for as long as we have. So sometimes we have to go back to that 1996 study, depending on when the plat was originally done, and any changes there to that development. So some of those impact fees are back at the original start of the time. Some of those, if they replat, get under the new impact fees. As Mr. Epperson stated, is that we need to do this at a maximum of no more than 5 years. That's required by state law. So that's why we're trying to minimize it and go as long as we can to minimize that. But yes, I'm aware of what you're talking about. We scrutinize it very, very well to be able to do that and to stay within the 10-year projects that are there, making sure that those benefits are for growth and watch what is done and then also what is also fallen off.
Sure. No, I appreciate the additional color. This city has been around for a long time. We don't have the same needs as the other jurisdiction, but I would just say the study didn't hold up in that other jurisdiction, and I know we'll put more scrutiny on a reasonable number. So I appreciate the team's efforts on that.
Good questions. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Hernandez.
Aye.
Member Little. Member Koza.
Aye.
Member Carbone.
Aye.
Member Kamkar.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Moving to new business continued. Items 2, 3, and 4 have been requested to move to June the 27th, since we have our financial advisor advises today. We've got some volatility in the bond market today. Probably be best for us to pull this back and then come back to the bond market in 2 weeks. So, and he's not here tonight. I don't think we actually move forward with any of our bids. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, and if there's anything to add, Amy has been in contact with John today.
Okay. So those will be moving to a future agenda. So that lands us on new business item number 5. Member Little, would you present it, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action on resolution number R 2022-129. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report?
So MUD 509 was created in 2007 with the start of Riverstone Ranch. It's been expanded multiple times over the years to other developments that are detailed in the agenda request. This will add the 110-acre residential plan development at State Highway 35 and Bailey Road that was recently approved. There's no city rebate for this annexed area as part of the MUD, and I believe we've got their legal and financial reps here if there's any questions.
Questions, comments from council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Little. Member Koza.
Aye.
Member Carbone.
Aye.
Member Kamkar.
Aye.
Member Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, perfect. Also, just a quick housekeeping, new business item number 10 at the bottom of our agenda has also been moved to a future agenda. One of the, by the actual requester, Member Koza, his second is also not here tonight, so requested it to be moved to a future agenda, most likely the 27th of June. So you're here for that item. Just want to make sure that you're aware that it's being moved. Coming back around, item number 6, Mr. Koza, would you present that, please?
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2022-124. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a contract to be awarded for road construction services. As part of our annual road program, we work with Brazoria County, as we mentioned earlier, in that purchase of asphalt. We do in-house work, and then we also contract out work. So this is part of the contracted work, and this will award a contract to Tandem Services in the amount of $807,810. The scope is to make base repairs where they're needed, plus a mill and overlay of all the streets in the Garden Acre subdivision. So that includes Gardenia, Laura, Lazy, Bend, and Thelma streets. It's scheduled to take about 5 months. And Tandem was the low bidder and has a positive history of working with the city on multiple projects. So we recommend award.
So this is in addition to the 3 projects that we're doing with the county.
That's correct.
O'Day, Veterans, and Old Alvin is being handled under that interlocal. This is being done in addition to all that.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Questions, comments from council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Koza.
Aye.
Member Carbone.
Aye.
Member Kamkar.
Aye.
Member Hernandez.
Aye.
Member Little. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, back around to Mr. Kamkar. Could you present item 7, please? Sorry, caught you.
That delicious almond joy. So, yes, sir. Consideration possible action resolution R 2022-135. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a professional services agreement with Garver. for project management services in the estimated amount of $1,047,800. So based on our current project volume and our capital improvement program, plus all the PERs that we're doing in preparation for the drainage bond and the other bond programs, and that we've got a couple of current vacant positions, created a need for this staff augmentation. Additionally, we've got Skipper Jones. He's going to retire here upcoming soon. And, he's our assistant director over capital projects. Not only does he oversee that group of project managers, he's also been leading the efforts on the surface water treatment plant. So we're going to be able to bring him back in part-time under this to help us finish that surface water treatment plant. But instead of working 60 hours a month or a week, we'll only get about 30 hours out of him a week. So we've done this in the past when our project volumes exceed our internal capacity. We've augmented our staff for project management, construction management, inspections. And so this is very similar. We're working with Garver, who we've been working with over the past few years under a master service agreement. So we've used them to manage some other projects over the past 2 to 3 years. And so this is basically an extension of that work. So as we get through the peak of that activity and get our permanent project managers on board, then we'll be able to scale this back. But this estimated cost is to bring on 2 full-time project managers, as well as a part-time project manager for the surface water plant and for the next year. And then we'll assess where we are at that point.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Just, yeah, so I think there's a part in here that says we'll only pay for the hours that we use, correct? This is not, we're committing to $1 million for 3 people, 2 full-time, 1 part-time.
That's correct. So, we've got them scheduled 2 full-time, 1 part-time, and that estimate's based on, we use all those hours throughout the entirety of the year. If we backed off on that, then we would only pay for what we use.
Okay. And what do you anticipate?
Right now, I anticipate we will use all of this. And then one thing I failed to mention is then whatever projects they're working on, the cost or the cost of that will be allocated to that project. So it's the same way we allocate our cost for our project management staff that's in-house. We allocate that across all of the projects. So same thing here, is we'll allocate those costs to the individual projects.
I see, okay.
So based on the full value of this contract, we don't anticipate filling those vacancies within the next year?
No, I mean, we're actively looking to fill those vacancies, but I think through this period where we got the PERs and a lot of these other projects going on at the same time and getting those people trained up, we'll need most of this likely for the next year.
So is there a shortage of qualified engineers in the marketplace?
So we don't have a requirement for engineers to be project managers, but there is a shortage of qualified project managers right now in the industry. We're struggling to find qualified people, and then they're very expensive. Yes, sir.
Camcar?
Robert, are these 3 folks or 2.5 folks all dedicated to the water plant, or are they spread somewhere in between?
No, only the part-time individual will be allocated to the surface water treatment plant to complete that project to the end. The other 2 individuals will be embedded full-time into staff, and they will be on facilities, water, wastewater, streets, drainage. Each of them have their project management experience. We'll be utilizing them to the full teal on all projects. They will be assigned several individual projects to manage and operate.
I have a lot of heartburn for 2.5 people. I understand hiring is tough. I'm looking for qualified people, but this is like a big number in my mind. Is this including reimbursements for cars or vehicles or food or anything else? Is this just engineering dollars allocated to engineering time, or is there other elements inside this number?
This is their salary plus the markup associated with them, and that's it. They arrive and come to the site as if that their job, their office is our office, and so they are to arrive at the city.
So there's no additional
mileage,
cost
no additional
above and
cost.
beyond this.
Mm-mm.
Would you be opposed to us having an update on this usage 6 months from now?
I'm not opposed to that because that'll be in the production of when we get projects moving, outside, done, trying to move forward.
I'd like to make a motion that there's some kind of reporting, even go on consent of just, this is how much we used or this amount of time. I'd like to make a motion to that we amend that there's a reporting 6 months from now on the status of usage.
I don't know if I'm ready to second that just yet. I just generally think that this just seems a big number for 2.5 people. I'm struggling. What would we normally pay? I mean, it says it's comparable if we were to hire a project manager. I mean, what would a project manager normally fetch on the open market? I mean, is it
So
300?
What are you say, Trent? Sorry. So our salary, based on the most recent comp and class study, our salary range for a project manager ranges from 62,000 to 84,000 at midpoint to 102,000 at the very top end, very top end. So with that, we're looking at the project managers in that 64 to 75 range. We're not finding them, and we're also competing. There is a shortage out there of project managers that are qualified, and companies are paying 30, 40% premiums for them, and they're swapping around. And we're just not able to compete right now at this moment to get in qualified project managers at this time.
So even if we paid them, more than double, let's say 150 each, I mean, that's three, and for a part-time person, let's say 400 total or 375, something like that, would still seem like it would be above and beyond what the market rate is. This seems triple that even. So just having difficulty wrapping my brain around
So
this.
working through an engineering firm like this, somebody aware, you've got they'll take their raw rate and then they use a multiplier on top of that to come up with what, they'll charge for their time. And so that's what we're looking at here. They're covering all their, their benefits and all those different things on top of that. So when you bring in someone from the outside to do this work, just like in the past when we've done it with construction managers or construction inspectors, you're looking at a very similar multiplier to that raw rate. And that's what we looked at to see whether or not this was where it should be in the market.
Robert, if this was, I'm just going to throw it out there, if this was rejected tonight, what would happen? What would we need to do? Because obviously we have projects that need to move forward. What do we need to do?
You want me to give you the gloom and doom?
Yeah,
I smile when I say that, and it's that currently with staff, I have staff members that are running 15 to 20 projects right now, and so you have attention. Projects are moving fast. If you don't move forward, then with example for the surface water treatment plant, most qualified person I have is not available anymore, and I have no one else on staff to be able to pick that up unless you look at me to pick that up and run that project. Trying to meet the other requirements associated with the bond program, with finishing those PERs, getting them vetted, making sure that they get accurate numbers back. All those items need to have detailed and attentive attention to it. Having 2 additional project managers while we're looking for more staff, those 2 could easily be running, because they're experienced, running 8, 10 projects, get those done and get ourselves back square. Dealing with our current construction projects right now to get those done, finished, and over the hurdle, working with our construction managers, getting our contractors paid, consultants paid, moving forward. Worst case scenario potentially is if you say no, and I use that caveat just in my opinion, is that we may have to postpone stuff. I need to have attention to that detail.
Is there anyone from Garver here?
Yes, sir. I have a gentleman by the name of Wade Parks.
Obviously, you can hear we've got heartburn over this number. Are you good with that number? Are you good with us rejecting this tonight? Yeah,
So I think one of the things that maybe Robert can put a little bit of this in perspective is the value of the projects that between these 3 people would be managed. I don't know if you can put a quick ballpark number on that, but it's, the cost to manage these things is typically a very small portion of the soft cost, which is a portion of the overall construction cost.
And it's just the heartburn of ultimately what that multiplier is. Sure, we could pay double our rate. We've got benefits on top of that. and we're still going to come in way below this if we can find the person. And I fully understand what the market is right now, and I think that's what you're hearing. We're 3 people for $1 million, or actually 2.5 people for $1 million. And even in increasing all of that and paying for bennies and even a vehicle, we're still not going to approach half of this number. So I'm having a hard time understanding the multiplier and what we get for that multiplier. Obviously, it's profit to the firm, and they've got benefits and they've got all of that. But these are our ratepayers. This is, for the most part, it's going to go into the individual projects. So I would assume, Robert, that individual projects, the project line items will be paying for this. So you're not going to see $1 million line item anywhere in any one given project. You're going to see 100,000 here, 50 here, 75 there, 200 here, all adding up to what this number is going to be over some time.
Correct. So broken upon 8 different projects in different phases, you may see 6 or 7%, 10% of that value to each of those projects for the year. It would be the similar in aspect is that if you break down our current project manager's time is that they budget that, but because of the number of projects, you may only see 1%, 2%, but we're managing many projects at once. With regards to the Garver's rate of, as what Mr. Epperson stated, is their base rate times their multiplier of 3.15. And that's the industry. Industry's running between right around 2.93 to 3.4. I mean, so we beat them down, you know, from a higher rate coming down to where they are, knowing that they'd be staged at our place. But that's with their overhead, their profit, their administrative staff, billing staff, et cetera. All that through adds into that as we deal with any consultant when we hire them to do any design project. The difference you're looking at is that you're embedding staff versus hiring a consultant to do a single job. We're hiring a consultant to help us do, if we say 8 per person plus the 1 being fully dedicated to the surface water plant, you could be looking 16, 17 projects to help us out.
Here I feel like I opened up the box here a little bit, but I'll say this: probably need to have Skipper, and that's the part that's like we all know is like this critical path. He's the only person that's been constant. The guy who is the deputy, I think, recently passed away unexpectedly. At the same time, you know, the budget last year that was approved was $100 million. And this is obviously 1% of that budget, but it's on 2.5 people. But the other side of that, and I have to give deference, if we hired 5 people, they would never come off the payroll, ever. And that's the balancing act, right? Is this 1 year and they're gone at a very high leverage time?
Yeah.
Or is it, do we go hire the 4 or 5 people that maybe we can't find and we pay wages and unfortunate balancing act?
Yeah. Well, I just, you know, I'm just having a hard time understanding plus or minus $500,000 that just leaves, never comes back. And I think we're all having that heartburn.
Yeah. Mr. Upton, and if I can't get a second, again, I'm happy to come and review this 6 months from now. It's still a heart attack-like number, but the reality is we need somebody to manage that plant, and we've got so many things that are jiggering. We're on our 2nd or 3rd change order due to timing. I would like to just give oversight 6 months into the future, and then if the number is way used up or way underutilized, we throw the book at somebody. But if not, if I can't get a second, we either go up or down and see what happens, I guess.
There would be some modified version of approving a different amount and then coming back. I don't know, but
They're going to tell you they
this
can't
this
negotiate.
gentleman here said he was here to help. So I'm curious what you were going to say after that statement.
Sure. By the way, I'm Wade Parks. I'm with Garver. Prior to my time with Garver, I actually spent 3 years of staff augmentation at the City of Houston. So I'd personally managed $250 million of capital projects. And that's kind of rolled into my technical experience as well. The value that I've seen is similar to what Mr. Upton and Mr. Epperson shared, is that it's intended to be a short-term fuse. And you know, really the two of the staff members that we've proposed are from this area, are citizens. One of them is a citizen of the city of Pearland. So you can kind of think that that's reinvesting into the city as well. These are employees that we have for the long term, but y'all just need to get y'all through this crunch to support people like Jameson and Robert.
Assuming we approve this, are you putting engineers in these positions? And if so, what level of experience, how many years of experience do they have?
Both of them have over a decade of experience.
Engineers.
One is an engineer. One is just a senior project manager. He's not a licensed engineer.
And a person with 10 years experience in that area, what range of salary they usually make, if that's not too personal of a question?
Could you rephrase your question? I'm sorry.
Approximately, what's the salary range for someone with 10 years of project experience? Project management experience.
It's kind of like what Robert was saying. It varies widely, but I've had
100,000 plus benefits.
Very, very easily. I've had offers rejected for similar roles for $100,000.
Okay, even if it was 150, we're looking at 300,000 plus benefits. Like my fellow councilman next to me, I have a hard time wrapping my head around over $1 million. It seems like there's a gigantic margin in this contract.
It's
three,
not.
4 times.
I'd kind of reiterate what Robert said. What we did as far as our multiplier was really just try to get close to 10% profit. We're not, contractors are having a lot more. Basically, what we're putting at risk is that employee being here full time. Us not being able to provide some of the services that Garver normally would with that staff. So the city did a good job in trying to beat down and get that to a very comfortable level, but really that's that low profit is, for us to bear that risk of that employee.
So if I understand, I'm sorry, 120 times 2 plus half of that for part-time at 60, that's 30, that's 300,000. And then you got benefits on top of that, times 10% is way below. Well, I understand. He said we try to make 10%. Well, no, your multiplier is your profit. That's the profit. I mean, and these employees are working directly with us, so I'm not sure what Garver behind the scenes is doing other than sending us a bill on a monthly basis. Because these employees are using our invoicing system on projects that they're working on, not Garver's, ours. We're housing them. So yeah, you're right. You take 300,000 times 3.1, and you're at 900 plus thousand, and then you do your 10% on top of that, and that's how you got to the million. So somewhere there's $600,000 that's going to the bottom line of Garver. And again, if Garver is billing all of our subs and everything else, that'd be one thing, but they're not. These employees are using our billing system, correct? And I mean, part of me wonders if we shouldn't just have a direct contract with the part-timer and we roll our dice on the other. Again, it's a large sum of money that's just going to go to Garver, and I'm questioning what services we're getting for that $500,000 or whatever.
Is this
on the multiplier?
Going to the water, wastewater, or is this coming out of general fund?
Going to the project.
No,
Each
but
project.
but who's, it's like the surface water plant where the part-timer is coming,
Water and sewer, right.
and the other guys are going to be in the general fund?
It will be according to whatever project they're assigned
That they're
to.
assigned to.
So
Got it.
So it's
be
CIP side. It's going to be a mix. That's
So yeah, I know that it was looked at, or whether we could do something direct on the surface water plant. I think just the providing the insurance you have to start up something like that was cost prohibitive, as well as being able to provide and I'm not talking about the health insurance, just the insurance to run the business. on top of all the normal benefits. So I know that was prohibitive for moving in that direction.
I mean, I've got the same heartburn. You said the high end of the project manager is 102, and we're getting 60 hours a week out of him. And now we're going to run him through a consultant, pay $370K to get 30 hours a week. I mean, well, then let's back off our insurance requirements of him or figure something out. But, I mean, everybody up here, we know we need Skipper, but we don't need to pay an extra $270 to a consultant to run Skipper through just for insurance. And, I mean, you're at the podium, connect the dots here, but
Sure.
Especially as it relates to Skipper. We're saying, here's a part-time guy we want to hire, we give him to you, and you multiply him by 3.15 and send him back. What are we missing?
Yeah, so I do kind of want to not correct you, Mayor, but kind of piece together the math that you're trying to run out. So the markup, that 3.15 includes that 10%. We're not adding 10% on top of that. Within that 3.15, that's our Garver's overhead and expense. That's us having insurance to meet the city's requirements for insurance. And there's a lot of good cases that y'all make. That's the difficulty of staff augmentation, is that you're paying a little bit more of what you would normally pay a design consultant to design a project where you get a service or a product. But the benefit that you get is the short-term service. That's really what it is. But we're not, like I said, we're not seeking or trying to gain a lot of profit. Like I said, with our discussions with Robert, our profit is very low, as far as what we would want to try to achieve with us being efficient with a design project.
So for roughly, I'll just use a $600,000 figure, because when you add up these salaries plus the half salary, so for $600,000 on the multiplier, what do we get directly from Garver for that? And I understand you got insurance doesn't cost $600,000 for these 3 employees.
Yeah.
So I know it's a piece of it. What other overhead, because we're housing them?
Yeah. So basically, what Robert and I talked about, and I can kind of share a little bit what the city of Houston does as far as them housing people. Basically, they take about 0.1 off of the markup. So typically, the city of Houston does a 3.0 markup, and it's a similar system. There's a little bit more dynamicism with Airland, but basically, the city gets a reduction for the staff sitting in the office, using the computer of the city, and using breathing the AC and all those amenities. That was kind of the negotiated reduction in the markup. So that we originally kind of started at 3.25 because we're fighting just as much as the city of Pearland to maintain our staff and to meet our current needs to deliver projects. And so it's the 3.5 was us taking that into account, reducing it because it's going to be housed, the individuals will be housed at the city, and also for us to just have a very bare minimum profit from it.
Darren, what are the rules? This is like a professional survey. What are like the rules what is the white lines that we're playing in regarding this? We can't go back and say X or Y needs to come off this number. We either have to accept or reject. Right? Where are we on that?
The council can negotiate with Garver on that. I mean, that number can be adjusted downward.
You want to come back, or you want to just get it done today? I mean, I guess that's the thing. I mean, we can table it, and maybe a number proposal comes back. I mean, the heartburn that you get, I get. And the reality is, I care about one person that wears a Garver uniform, and the other ones we can take or leave a little bit. But
That's a question I had. I was just going to ask real quick. How did we choose Garver here?
So with Garver, since we already have a task order contract, we've used them before. We've used that, and we've set that up as a master service agreement. So that's how we utilize that. Is that contract and this would just already be a task order associated with that.
If we need to supplement a project for several months or whatever, we had a pot of money to go to and draw down, correct?
We have a task order
Right.
where we could pull in, and like I said, as you said, and as Mr. Epperson stated, is that these projects are funded through the project itself.
So when we did the generator upgrade at the public safety building, Garver provided us a project manager to run that project. And that was one of the task orders, I think, probably came to council for approval at the time. Single project.
All right, we've said a lot. What do you guys want to do? Any other questions, comments?
I mean, I want to vote no, but Robert's going to shoot us.
Yeah, no
Right? I
kidding.
mean, that's the spot that we're in, and
Right.
so
See you 2 weeks from now. That's what we'll do.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like we're backed into this corner, and there's not a good way out, and we're staring at staff saying, "Help us," and it's going to cost $1 million.
Are the-
It would be cheaper for us on Skipper alone to whatever that contract is, pay for his insurance. His insurance is not going to be $1 million a year. Just not. I wish our insurance guy was here tonight. He would tell you. It's just not.
Is
And that's what I'm getting at is there's that $600,000. We're not getting any value for $600,000 leaving our city. That's what we're trying to say. I don't doubt that Garver itself has overhead, but there is nothing coming back to the citizens who are paying that $600,000 for any value whatsoever.
are the two other personnel besides the part-timer set, do we have a name? Have we worked with them before, or is this picking out of a hat?
No, we have not worked with them before, but they have been selected. We've looked at their resumes. Because of their experience, it would be
So you have a name and a face, and you know who those people are, and if they get changed on you because you change this contract, you would be upset.
Yeah. Go negotiate and hire them direct. Sorry, but I mean, it's cheaper.
All right.
Yeah. So,
Can I ask from a legal standpoint, with TMRS and the surface water treatment plant manager, he's now part-time. Can we not hire him directly as a consultant?
Which individual?
Skipper.
Oh, can the city hire?
Right.
The city could contract with Skipper directly.
Why? What's wrong with that?
health insurance and insurance as a contractor was
Okay.
the issues on that.
I mean, instead of him getting 120-ish K, can we just pay him 150 for his 30 hours a week, and he makes a little extra, and we go on about our day? And we save 370 off this contract?
The city can contract with him and negotiate a price, yes.
You see issues with that, Robert?
As you stated and indicated, the only concern is that needing to meet our insurance requirements as a consultant, creating whatever LLC or corporation or whatever business shingle, we'll call it that, would be required to isolate that, and what that takes to set that up. So it comes down to that. In a personal discussion, I didn't think that there was a desire to be able to try and do that, and set that up for just a short period of time, to get that plant. So
Like I think if Skipper's listening to this and he knows he can net in his pocket 30 or 40 K, I think he'd jump through those hoops to save the city 370. I mean, that's to me sounds like a win-win, unless I'm just missing something.
It's about $1,500 to set up an LLC.
Right.
I do them all the time.
In 4 days, 3 days.
The Secretary of State's running a little longer because they can't get qualified people to work, but about no more than a week.
Yeah, a week. Yeah, I don't want to make light of the fact that we have other projects that are ending because of this. Possibly we postpone this for tonight. I think we've heard, and staff has certainly heard, come back in 2 weeks. Does 2 weeks kill us on any of this?
No.
No, I think we'll be fine. And I know it's a big number and it's all at once, and you're not seeing the projects it's against.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
So we can bring some of that additional information back, because in the past, we've approved construction management and inspection contracts well in excess of $1 million for a single project, where we're getting, a construction manager part-time and a couple of inspectors, full-time on some of our major projects. And, similar numbers. I think it's just, you see that against the value of the project itself and that it's a cost to get that project done. It gives a better picture. And under similar circumstances, similar multipliers, they're in the field offices and things like that. So I think we can put some additional perspective around it. We can work on the numbers as well and bring something back and try to answer those other questions.
Mr. Epperson?
Yes, sir.
One thing I did want to add for the council is that we hadn't selected the projects, partly because of wanting to know, as you said, where we are today in this discussion, what those projects would look like. With that, also, just, as we reviewed the individuals, and then also where we were in the process of projects as they are too, with PERs, with projects that haven't started yet to get those slated up and started, getting projects complete, moving from design phase to construction phase. So we hadn't penciled up that list yet until we had this discussion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to postpone till the 6/27 meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second to postpone. I don't believe that's debatable. So with that, Madam Secretary will call for the vote.
Member Camcar?
Aye.
Member Hernandez?
Aye.
Member Little? Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Carbone?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to postpone item to the next regular city council member meeting on June 27th.
All right, moving to new business item number 8. Where did I leave off? That was Member Carbone, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action. First reading of ordinance number 1462-4. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. This is an item that actually originated several council meetings ago when the council considered doing some initial changes to the ethics ordinance dealing with former council members. And then at that time, I was provided direction from the council to go ahead and make a similar change that would affect existing council members. And that's the change that's been presented to you this evening. There's some other minor changes, but substantively, that's the primary change. Just to clarify, what does this mean, this proposed change this evening? The impact of the change would simply say that the city would not have the ability to enter into a contract with a sitting city council member or a business entity in which that council member has a substantial business interest in. And those are defined by state law and referenced in the ordinance. So, and if you're asking how does that differ from how things are today? And just to clarify that, under today we currently follow state law essentially. So can the city today enter into a contract with a council member or with a business entity in which that council member has a substantial interest? And the answer is yes. That's the way it is. That's the uniform state law across the state of Texas. So this would be going a step beyond and would be a stricter law. The state law just simply states that if the council is going to enter into a contract of that nature, then the council member would have to file an affidavit with the city secretary, and then they would have to abstain and leave the room during the discussion and vote on that matter, and they couldn't take any action or have any influence, essentially removing it from the discretion of that council member because of their conflict. So this would be going a step beyond that, and that's what the proposed change is this evening, and obviously I'll be happy to answer any questions as we get into the discussion.
Thank you for that. Open up for questions, comments, concerns from council. Member Koza?
My understanding, Darren, is that it's any contract, so just a simple purchase order from a department head or lower not actually coming to council would be affected by this.
That is correct. When we had the discussion on how to bring this back, it was to say that the city could not enter any contract. I've seen variations where it's presented in such a way that the city council cannot enter into any contract, and that would be items that, of course, that would come before council would be the ones impacted there. But the way it is drafted, this would be across the board at any level of contracting at the city would not be able to enter those contracts.
Okay, the reason I ask is basically the city kind of throws out there that we want to support local business. The company that I work for has been in business for 57 years. We just celebrated our 57th anniversary about a month ago. And this would impact us. Not that anything we do rises to the level to hit council's desk. Ours are always small POs here and there throughout the city that when we bid on it, there are two other people that the city also has to have. So it's, to me, kind of crossing a line where it's pretty punitive for, you know, someone like myself. So that's my comments.
Any other question? Member Camcar?
Yes, I just want to, first of all, thank Member Perez. He's no longer with us on the council, but this started with him, I want to say, gosh, must be April, in trying to do this. I think we've heard a lot of comments about restoring trust with the citizens and things of this nature, and I think this kind of thing that he brought up and we built on, I think is really showing that we were trying to go above and beyond to rebuild that trust. I'm thankful for Member Carbone coming up with that item for us to discuss, that the former members and the present members are in essentially a same level playing field. So I think this is one of those key steps towards rebuilding trust, and I think this is a good item that I'm looking forward to seeing happen.
Questions, comments? Yep, Member Carbone?
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, there's a public comment, I guess, asking about taxpayer-funded trips for personal gain. I think Mr. Davis was referring to what council going on to a conference, TML, or any of the others, and then use that for personal gain. How does that, if any, kind of interact with the ethics ordinance?
Right now, there's really nothing specifically that would address the circumstance that the citizen spoke of this evening. Let me see. If you'll bear with me, I'm scrolling through the ordinance here. There's nothing directly that's going to address that direct, specific circumstance. And then another thing, it's really hard to, when an individual's traveling at a conference like that, for instance, you don't know when they're doing that. I mean, obviously, you go to a conference during the day, and then in the evening, you know what you do. You're on your own time. Those are things that are very difficult and challenging to be able to regulate. Now, obviously, if a council member is going and setting up a booth at a conference and being paid by the city to be there, that would be a different story. But I had not looked directly into the circumstances raised this evening, so it would be speculative at this point.
Thank you. I guess the other follow-up question is on, I guess, page 9 of the packet. I guess that'd be what, section 2.283D, the city shall not enter into a contract. So if that said city council, then that would address Member Koza's concern.
Yes, yes, and just to clarify, you know, the statutorily, city charter-wise, and also our own city policies, any expenditure that's $50,000 or greater is required to come to the city council. So, if this were changed to read that the city council shall not authorize any contract with them, then that would basically apply to any contract that's $50,000 or greater. It would not then apply to things that are done at the staff level. And just to clarify there as well, those items that are less than that, the city's own policies require that I believe at least three bids, 3 quotes are obtained, and then pricing is obtained after obtaining those 3 quotes, assuming that they can at least get 3, and then decision is made based upon that information.
I mean, I hear what Koza's saying. I mean, we want to shop local, and we want to keep our tax dollars local. And then Koza is one of the oldest companies in in the city from doing business with the city when it doesn't come close? Do we have any idea on how much business we do with COSAs as a city?
Last year, we did about $7,500.